breaking down Sonny Styles' scouting report and telling you why he's an elite level prospect who should be picked inside the top 5.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft process. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with the LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you. Sonny Styles, our number 6 overall player on our post-combine top 25 NFL draft big board. Go check that out. We dropped that episode where we had a nice thorough discussions about a bunch of different players and different positions on yesterday's episode. And Sonny Styles came in at number 6, moved him up after he tested like an absolute alien at the NFL scouting combine. So guys, we're going to get into the pros, the cons, and explain the great when it pertains to him. But before that, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. 6'5", 245 pounds, 4'6" in the 43.5-inch vert. Well, I don't remember his broad. It was over 11, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, Sonny Styles, elite athlete, personified. Keith, I always ask you this question to start the show. What's his superpower?
Wow, DP. Superpower. You know, I thought about this because I knew he was going to ask me this question, right? It was like, okay, what is his superpower? And I think his superpower is his ceiling because of his athleticism. When you talk about a guy that's 6'5", 245 pounds, that sounds like an edge rusher. That sounds like a linebacker, right? Yeah. And then when I say he ran a 4.4 and jumped 43 inches, that sounds like a defensive back, right? And I'm talking both corners and safeties. That's how fast he is, right? So when I look at it, DP, the superpower I believe will be the ability to place him in multiple positions, and his ability to make plays. And just so you know, and I don't know how much it was discussed on NFL Network in depth, but this is a young man that entered Ohio State as a safety, right? As a defensive back, and then was transitioned down. So he has defensive back background, right? Just overall. And so I think about just, you know, we have the conversation of I'm gonna go here in a unique way, right? But we have the conversation of the Kyle Hamiltons and the Nick Emmanwaris, right? Like just these guys that are 6'2", 6'3 plus, 220 plus pounds, and they just able to do so many different things. I think Sonny Styles is a version not of Nick Emmanwari and Kyle Hamilton, but he's a version of being that versatile within the front seven. I continue to say I think he has real pass rush upside. I thought when we and now he surpasses him, but I didn't think he surpassed him until the combine. But remember, I'm blanking on this young man's name, the Alabama linebacker from last year, who got drafted to Jihad Campbell, right? And Jihad was highly touted because he had some of those versatility traits. I think Sonny Styles showcased that he has that in athletic profile. And the biggest thing is that it's on film. That's what I continue to say. Like this wasn't I would say this, like maybe him running a 4.46, but if he'd ran a 4.5 flat, I wouldn't have shook my head at it, right? I wasn't surprised. I was more surprised at the 43-inch vertical because that's like really high leaping ability. But you can see that this young man can flat out fly on film.
Yeah, I think for me, Keith, I agree with most of what you said. And I think for me, his superpower is, like you said, that versatility. And I think that ability, I think I'll say this. It's the versatility, but the third down ability, to me, is a coverage backer. That safety background. I think
that's what I meant more with the Kyle Hamilton and the Nick Emmanwari.
Yeah, no, 100%. I know exactly what you mean.
That big nickel extra, and he's going to be on the field anyways. It's not an extra linebacker, but that big nickel type of position to where he's almost playing strong safety for you.
No, 100%. I think like that ability on third downs, watching him, you think about how, we see defensive coordinators just get creative when they have the right pieces on their defense, right? To run a inverted cover two, and where your middle of the field guy isn't the safety, it's that middle linebacker. You got to have a special athlete at that middle linebacker spot to get deep and get depth from from the box to, hey, I'm 15 yards back, getting to a spot, taking away those end breakers and post routes and things of that nature. And I continue to say, I think I might have said it last year when I initially brought Sonny Styles up and kind of brought him to the forefront, like, hey, he's not coming out this year, but keep your eyes out on the former safety converted linebacker at Ohio State. He's what Isaiah Simmons was supposed to become. But it's the fact that Ohio State allowed him 2 years to develop as a linebacker. They didn't just say, hey, you're going to play linebacker for 5 snaps, then 10 snaps you're playing nickel. And no, they let him really develop as a linebacker. I love, in terms of the pros, that ability to get depth and to drop off in coverage. I think he's the type of guy from a 6'5", the 240, the elite athleticism, the ability to flip and turn his hips because he's a former safety in coverage. You want a guy like that can match up with tight ends. Tight ends are the biggest mismatch in football, no matter if it's high school, college, and the NFL. If you got a legit stud at tight end, defenses don't know what to do with that, because how do you match up? I can't put a linebacker on you 9 times out of 10 because they're either not athletic enough or they're too small. I can't put a nickel because they're athletic enough, but they're not big enough. Safeties, depending on what safety you have, he's going to be physically outmatched as well, right? Or athletically outmatched. So those guys, like having a legit tight end, changes the game for the offenses. It changes the math, the numbers, how you defend that offense, right? We've seen it with Gronkowski, Gonzalez, Shannon Sharp in his heyday, you know what I mean? Travis Kelce, we've seen it. George Kittle, when the 49ers actually unleash him, we've seen that. So having a guy like Sonny Styles that can play that type of role in coverage, I believe he's got that man upside to be able to do that, but also being able to drop off in coverage. I love the IQ of being able to keep his head on the swivel, pass off routes, read the route recognition, and know what's coming in threatening his zones. But Keith, also, I think we don't talk about it enough. His run defense is really good. Like
that's where I was about to get to. Because you mentioned instincts. He's an instinctual player, and I know you talked about the difference between him and Isaiah Simmons as far as reps. I have to be honest, right? And Isaiah Simmons was a guy that I evaluated coming out of Clemson too. Their instincts on 2 totally different levels. Sonny Styles is a guy that sees it, understands the blocking schemes, things like that, and he's able to get downhill, right? Like, so
for sure.
I think even if you talk about, like, if Sonny Styles didn't run a 4.46 and he was a 4.55 guy, like, is he a starting linebacker in the NFL?
Right.
Like, just playing that position, eliminating all the high-end athletic traits, I say yes, he's a starting linebacker in the NFL because he has the instincts and the traits forward. And in the past, DP, I've said this, right, that linebacker at times has been disrespected because it's been like, okay, just take an oversized safety and play him at linebacker. Well, it doesn't always work like that, because you have to be an extremely quick processor, because you're 5 yards closer to the football than what you were as safety. So you have to see everything that much quicker, right? So I look at Sonny Styles and I say that that the instincts part, I think, is a big part of his game too, right? Like, outside of the physical part, the mental part is that he understands the game.
And I mean, that goes back to, it's the reps. Like, I don't think his instincts would be where it was if he was being coached by Dabo. You know what I mean? When they did with they ruined Isaiah Simmons. Yes, they displayed Isaiah Simmons' versatility, but it's like, brother, like, I remember him coming into the draft and everybody's like, so what position is he actually going to play? And it was like, I don't know. Like, he plays everywhere. I was like, that sounds good in college. That doesn't work in the NFL. You got to have a design role and everything. So I think what Ohio State did of saying, listen, you're a linebacker and we're going to let you develop there. And I love the fact that he had the wherewithal to say, I need that extra year to develop and really be able to see things quicker. Because I feel like last year, I felt like there was some delay with him because he was just transitioning full-time into that role. But this year, being able to really play it for 24, 25, 30 games at linebacker, and seeing that experience was big for him. But that run defense, I keep going back to it. The Indiana game, guys, go watch his tape against Indiana. It was teach tape on how to defend the run. He was stacking. He was shocking blockers. He was getting off of guys. He was getting to the running backs. He was meeting them in the alley. He was hitting the alley with physicality. So you can blitz him through the A gap. You can run defense with him. This guy does everything. He's a chess piece in your front seven. But like I said, let him play linebacker. Don't get too creative with him where you start pulling him around. Because we saw that happen with Isaiah Simmons in Arizona, where it was like linebacker, nickel, safety. It was like, yeah, no, let him develop at linebacker. This is a guy, he's an elite prospect to me, Keith. Top, like you said, top 6 guy. And I think he's probably going to go top 5 in the draft.
Yep, DP, well, I'll tell you this, man. With the great prospects, it's often hard to find a ton of issues, right? When you get to the concerns part, when you're writing these scouting reports, you kind of sit there and you say, man, I don't have a lot, right? And that shows a true testament to a great prospect. But we're going to talk about a couple of concerns, right? Like just the detail, minute things of Sonny Styles' game that you need, instead of concerns, we say areas of improvement, right? So let's discuss the areas of improvement for Sonny Styles coming up next.
We live in the world where we can stream anything, order food in minutes, and carry supercomputers in our pockets. And somehow buying tickets to a live game still feels complicated. Hidden fees, jumping prices, endless steps. There has to be a better way, and there is. That's why I use the Game Time app. It gives fans the advantage and makes getting tickets simple, whether it's NFL games, concerts, comedy shows, whatever you're into. You can see panoramic views from every seat in the building before you buy your ticket. The prices you see include all fees, no surprises at checkout. 2 taps and you have great seats locked in. Fast, easy, done. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. The areas of improvement, the concerns when it pertains to Ohio State's star linebacker, Sonny Styles. Keith, I'll kick it off. For me, you brought something up because you said it multiple times. You are higher on his pass rush ability than I am. I don't see the natural ability for him, and I don't see the natural pass rush ability. I think when you look at, for me, when I watch him, yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna jump into that because I'm gonna give me a second. I'm gonna pull up Arvell Reese's stats, right? And I think that the crazy part is their last year to this year, Arvell Reese's stats are very comparable to Sonny Styles' stats the year before. If and I wonder if they switched positions, and it's similar to, remember we had Jordan Battle and Brian Branch, both of the safeties from Alabama, right? And it seems like they switched roles that final year. Like Jordan played more free, Brian played more like that strong nickel hybrid type situation. But the year before they were flipped. But yeah, I think statistically, and I went back and watched the last year's film, and I think that's why it kind of led me towards thinking that he has some pass rush upside, even as a blitzer, right? Like talking about Green.
Sure,
yeah. But I think statistically, I'll pull it up, DP, but you could go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was, as you were talking, I was pulling it up too, because I was thinking about the same thing, looking at the differences between the two guys. And I think for me, like when I look at Sonny Styles, I think to your point, I agree. The blitzing, that's where I think he's going to make his money in terms of pressuring the quarterback. You get him the athleticism downhill, mugging up A and B gaps, slicing through gaps and getting in the face of the quarterback at 6'5". Yeah, I'm disrupting everything you're trying to do, quarterback. Like you got to move off the spot. And now I'm chasing you in the backfield, and I'm an elite athlete, right? So I think from the edge rush standpoint, like he only has 169 total pass rush snaps in his career. He never eclipsed 80. Where you look at like Arvell Reese this year, Arvell Reese had 119 just this in 2025. He's only been like a guy that's been in this defense for 2 years and everything. 2024, I don't think he was a full-time starter and everything. I believe he only had 309 total snaps, where in 2025 he had 651 snaps. So he was more of a full-time starter this year. But you see, for me, when you watch the two, Sonny Styles is the better linebacker. Arvell Reese is the better pass rusher. Like the guy that converts speed to power. He has more of the natural, I know which hand to club. I know how to free and clear myself and work the edge. I think the pass rush thing is like, I don't want to And I think that takes away from, like, again, my superpower for him is that coverage ability. I think you got you a guy that you think about, Keith. How many times we talk about these quarterbacks and we evaluate, like, man, throwing in the middle of the field is a big thing in the NFL. Layering passes over 6'5", 245 that can jump 43.5 inch. Good luck. You know what I mean? That's going to be very difficult. So I think the pass rush stuff, if a defensive coordinator tries to push him on the edge, I think that would be a mistake. And then I would say, honestly, too, Keith, I want to see, even though he's 245, I think he can actually bulk up. Give me 5 to 7, maybe 5 to 8 more pounds of muscle. That Miami game kind of did raise a red flag because I looked at him, I was like, he's well built. He's like an action figure. Shout out to Jordan Reed. We'll remember who tweeted that out early in the season, but he is still a little bit leaner with his frame. And I remember Mark Fletcher running straight through his face downhill. And I'm just like, remember we talked about Arvell Reese in that game. They wanted to rush him against Markel Bell. And then after that run by Mark Fletcher, there when he ran through Sonny Styles, Matt Patricia said, oh, screw that. I got to pull Arvell Reese back on the second level of the defense because we are light back there without him. So I think Sonny Styles could use a couple more pounds of muscle to just deal with that physicality in the box in the NFL. We're seeing teams be more intentional running the football. And while I think he's a good run defender, running the alley, you got to have a little bit more pop and more power when you're meeting these NFL running backs.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I may have a slightly different solution. For him, I think it's a disengaged thing, knowing how to almost shock and shade. But I agree with you that I've seen that there were times when the offensive lineman climbed into his chest, right? There was a delay in him being able to disengage, right? Like use his hands and disengage. And it's not always, and because when I seen sometimes he would attack downhill and strike the offensive lineman, right? But it's more so when he's hovering at 4.5 yards, and then the lineman can climb to him, and then he has to figure out a quick way to disengage that, right? Like that's the one thing. And
dropping his pad level is going to be big too.
Well,
running the alley,
I was just about to say that. I was going to say that the other part of him being 6'5", 245 is that most linebackers, right, because they stand at 6 foot, right, and they talking about 6'1", 6'2", right, and then squatting down a little bit, right? They're already naturally under the offensive lineman from a pad leverage standpoint, so you can get grab of those pads. But because Styles is so tall that he's probably on par with the offensive lineman. If not, some of them are shorter than him, right? Because he's sitting at that 6'5" range. So the pad level situation, I agree, is he's going to have to find a way to deal with that, and that's probably going to have to include hand usage quicker, right? Like he's going to have to find a way to hurry up and quickly punch those hands through and being able to, kind of redirect the offensive lineman. But I'll say this, that it's a concern. It's something for him to improve. I think if we're projecting him to being a all-pro type of linebacker, right? Like being one of the best in the NFL. But I think sufficiently enough, right? Like I think it's sufficient enough right now, but it's something that can be worked on and improved on to make him unstoppable. Yeah.
I think, like I said, that Miami game, like when you're dealing with a running back like Mark Fletcher, who's like 220, and he's running through you, and because I think a big thing for him, he improved drastically with it. In 2024, I think he had like over 19 missed tackles that year because, again, there was the whole, going from safety to linebacker. And I always remember the quote, I think he said in the interview in terms of Isaiah Simmons. He said, the closer you get to the line of scrimmage, the quicker the action is. And, when he played that nickel, then you go put him in linebacker. Because Arizona tried to play him as a outside linebacker, stand-up edge. And that was a different ball game. Like, yeah, you're a freakish athlete, you're strong and everything else, but this action is quick down here. The ball is snapping. These linemen are triggering. These tight ends and these dual blocks are triggering. So it's like for him, last year was a little bit of a developmental year. So he can sometimes you got to be quick to the draw, get to the alley and make a tackle. When you think about dealing with the Derrick Henrys and these power backs in the NFL, you better be able to tackle. You got to get that pad level. Now, Derrick Henry's a different animal than everybody else. Build wise. But even you think about going, you get drafted to, he's not getting drafted to, who knows, the Jets. Like if you got drafted to the Jets and you got to deal with the Patriots, Ramondre Stevenson is like 230 pounds. This is a hammer downhill, and he's got the leverage advantage. So that's a big thing for me watching, I think he's still a really good run defender. I think he sees it well. He moves well. The instincts are there. Like you said, it's just being more consistent with his hands against blocks. But when you're dealing with these power runners who have the natural leverage advantage, you got to be able to just drop your hips, coil out of there, and strike these guys. You can't allow them to gear up, hit the alley at full speed, and you trying to tackle them. Like, that's not going to work because these guys going to run straight through you. And that was what Mark Fletcher was able to do. Remember, Miami's offensive, that run game dominated Ohio State's defense. And that's not something that happened all season for them. Like, that was the one game where they were out physical. And I wanted to just see him. That's why I think adding a couple more pounds and getting stronger as well at the point of attack as a tackler will help him out a lot going into the NFL.
Yep, I agree with DP. Let's do this, man. Coming up next, we're going to knock out our favorite part of the show, right, where we give you the draft grade, the grade that we have on Sonny Styles plus some NFL comps. We'll do that coming up next.
It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient. Sitting in their waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get loaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go on about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers, explaining the grade and delivering our NFL comps for star linebacker for those Ohio State Buckeyes, Sonny Styles, 6'5", 245, Mr. 4'6", and 43.5-inch vert himself. Keith, what is the grade that you gave for Sonny Styles?
Yeah, I mean, after especially looking at the combine and everything and incorporating those numbers tied with the film, I gave him an 87. So I right for us, the Draft Network, he's right up there. In this class, he's right up there with the best of the best. I think a half a point behind Fernando Mendoza. Arvell Reese, I had at an 87.5. Fernando at an 87.5. And then he's right there in that next tier right there under him. So I went with an 87 because I really like this young man. And I can't say DP in a month I decided to change my mind and put him on par with all of these guys. But I'm going to go through one more film review, right? Like, just to make sure I feel how I feel about everything. But yeah, he's right up there with them. Like I this has been a guy that we've talked on this podcast a lot about, and I think we've collectively always liked him, right? And thought that he was a high caliber player. So that's what I went with.
Yeah, no, we're very close. I have him as an 8.6, which is an impact player, right there, like, because the Pro Bowl is top 10 for us, so that's like a 9. And we haven't given out too many 9s over at Bleacher Report the last 2 years since I've been there. But I get 8.6. This is an impact player, just a chess piece defensively, a guy that can make it. He's a 3-down linebacker, man. And I think, and we had conversations about, about teams that could potentially draft him, and that goes into my comp. Robert Saleh just got hired, not too long ago as the new head coach for the Tennessee Titans. And Titans are picking at 4. Right. And you look at, you can kind of weigh that situation of, do we go a Reuben Bain? Do we go a David Bailey? Or does he look for, which my comp is Fred Warner for him? Does he look for the next Fred Warner that can man his defense? And Fred does everything for San Fran. He covered. That's one of the only linebackers in the league that you can throw the tape on and you're watching him cover wide receivers out of the slot vertically, carrying them vertically up the seam, going stride for stride, carrying them on over routes. Right? Like, they're passing them off and he's able to run stride for stride with guys. I think Sonny Styles can do the exact same type of stuff. And I think they got him, 4th round or something crazy like that when he was drafted.
Out of BYU.
Out of BYU, man. And he came in different athletes, 6'3" and 3/8, 236. He ran 4.64, but he did have a 38.5-inch vert. And I think a 11.9 on the broad and everything. But I think Sonny Styles, my comp for him is Fred Warner. I think you continue to allow him to develop at that linebacker spot. You got a chance to have the best linebacker in the league. You got a chance to have a guy that could be that impact player. Like, I mean, I wanted to, get back to the NFL films of them slowing down the pre-snap process of games, and where we watched Tom Brady calling out things and Ray Lewis and Brian Urlacher. Hey, like they know what's going on. That's what Fred Warner does, right? I don't see a lot of linebackers. No, not saying it doesn't happen, but not to that same extent, where that green dot guy is like literally checking and calling everything. I think Sonny Styles can end up being that elite impact player at the second level of a defense, Keith. And I listen, we got him at 6. You had him in our mock earlier this week. You had him going to the Giants, which I think makes a ton of sense for the Giants to put him back there behind big Dexter Lawrence and that defensive line and just erase some things. And if you are a team that have athletic quarterbacks like the Giants have in their division, makes a lot of sense to have a Sonny Styles or Arvell Reese that can play that spy and really limit the mobility and athleticism of these quarterbacks, man. My comp for him is definitely Fred Warner.
I like that, DP. I like the Fred Warner situation. This was difficult for me because he's such a unique combination of height, weight, speed, right? That I thought that like trying to nail it perfectly was difficult. And so Fred Warner, and I'm not even sure, we may have to come back to this, right? Like at a later episode, because I'm not even sure that I have like an exact comp for him. But I thought of Fred Warner, right? And another guy that I thought of, because I was thinking of like just taller linebackers because he is 6'4", 6'5", right? I thought of Brian Cushing from USC a while ago. Which this guy was fat, but obviously, Sonny Styles is more athletic. So it's almost that combination. And I probably lean with you more Fred Warner than Brian Cushing. It was so difficult. I was just trying to find like these taller linebacker prospects. And there's not many that he's talking about 6'4", 6'5" that run a 4.4. Like that's extremely difficult to find.
Keith, I want to throw something at you. This is just more hypothetical, guys. Like I said, play him at linebacker. But if a team, man, I would love to see Mike McDonald get his hands on Sonny Styles and like really figure out a plan. As you were talking, right, and you were going through the comps, I was like, no, you're right. Like there is no just like 1-for-1 because like you don't have 6'5" linebackers, and if you do, and they are 245, they are not 4.4 athletes, so it's different. I remember I think when I was watching on NFL Network, they pulled up the tailor tape between him. It was 2 players. I think they pulled up. One was Calvin Johnson, which is unreal because they matched them very similarly, and one's a linebacker, the other one's a receiver. And they put up Kyle Hamilton. So I thought to myself, well, Kyle Hamilton didn't have the same level of athleticism. He would be, if you wanted to play him in that kind of that role, he would be Kyle Hamilton with Derwin James athleticism. And because Kyle Hamilton's like 6'4", like 230, but he was a 4.5 guy. He probably was 4.4, like low 4.4 or high 4.4s or whatever, because he was swing back and forth when he ran his 40 at the combine and everything. But Derwin James had a 4.47 come out of Florida State. You know what I mean? So like if you wanted to use him, or you like, hey man, we make him into or put him back in that safety spot, big nickel, he would be Kyle Hamilton with Derwin James athleticism, that speed, that range with Kyle Hamilton's ability to cover. I think you can get that same type of play out of that. But again, that's more hypothetical because I still want him to just play pure linebacker and let him fully develop there, because I think you got yourself an absolute game wrecker at the linebacker spot, especially if he's your green, like your Mike. If he's your Mike backer, like he's dropping back vertical more times than not. That middle of the hook, defender, trying to throw a dig off a dagger concept or trying to throw like him throwing a slant in front of him just seems very risky for everybody involved. The quarterback, because it might be a pick, or the receiver, because you're like, man, he might trigger and seize this quickly. He might lay me out. You know what I mean? So it's just interesting player. There's no 1-for-1 comp for him. I don't think there really will be, besides maybe his teammate.
Right, Arvell Reese, which is interesting in itself. And speaking of that, DP, real quick, I told you I was gonna pull up the numbers. So Arvell Reese this year had 6.5 sacks, right? Last year, Sonny Styles had 6 sacks. So I knew it was numbers that I was trying to say that our year before was very comparable. But just wanted to put that out there from our discussion earlier. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On Monday, guys, we're bringing our top 10 quarterbacks post-NFL scouting combine. We'll give you our top 10 quarterback rankings on tomorrow's show. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.